Hey everybody, Eric here. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you're going okay. I love games, you love games, and we love to look forward to new games. And I always really look forward to announcements of games at showcases like E3, Summer Games Fest, Nintendo Direct, Sony State of Plays, and even following along with some Kickstarters and Indiegogos. We've been treated to so many great games over the last few years that I think we've actually forgotten about some games that were announced and just fizzled out, never came out. So today's video is dedicated to a few cool games that I've been looking forward to and I've wanted to come out, but they just never did. Let's check it out. Here's a game I first saw about 10 years ago. I've always been a fan of Daytona USA and any game that's kind of similar, and we've recently had a resurgence of those style games, and that's awesome. But the one I was originally excited for was called 90s Arcade Racer. This game promised to be a faithful modern-day spiritual successor to those classic racing arcade games we loved in the 90s and early 2000s, of course, and piqued a lot of interest, even having a Kickstarter campaign funded by 700 people in 2013. Unfortunately, the last update for this campaign was the 1st of November in 2015, where the developer Pelican 13 basically said that they're optimizing the game, doing bug fixes, AI tweaks, and GUI tweaks, as well as two-player split screen. So that update kind of basically says that they're almost finished, really, or they're kind of putting the polishing and finishing touches on there. So it was really strange for it to just stop being posted about and all of a sudden just nothing. Even the comments I have checked back on every couple of years, and boy, people are upset. And you know what? I don't blame them, because not only is this a cool game, it's also not really cool to be burned by a Kickstarter campaign, but unfortunately that's the risk that you take. Next up is PT. I don't normally get into scary games, but anything developed by Hideo Kojima will always get my attention as a fan of pretty much everything that he's done, from Snatcher to Metal Gear Solid, and even the more obscure Boktai on Game Boy Advance. But let me tell you, PT is plain old scary. I remember playing the demo when it launched, and I could barely make it through that. This game, which was a playable teaser, which is where the PT comes from if you didn't know, for a Silent Hill game featuring Norman Reedus. Now, we all know that Kojima would go through a nasty breakup from Konami and go forward to make Death Stranding with, you guessed it, Norman Reedus. PT has been recreated in a lot of different ways with different games and has garnered a lot of interest after its sudden cancellation in 2015. The question I have for you is, would it still be as popular, or if not more popular, if it didn't get canceled? Food for thought. Now this one is a throwback. In 2006, Final Fantasy Versus 13 was first teased. This game was part of 3 games in development sharing the same mythos, as it was labeled, like the theme or plot or the overall structure. The initial teaser blew me away, and I was nothing short of excited for the wonderful world of the Fabula Nova Crystallis. I remember being in my high school library reading Wikipedia entries on the computer and watching the very few and far between news updates and trailers for this game, feeling an unimaginable sense of hype. Most teasers shown had the same UI as what would appear in the final release of Final Fantasy XIII, and featured a now very recognizable cast of characters, the main party in Final Fantasy XV. It's safe to say that what became Final Fantasy XV went through some sort of development hell, and it's a real shame considering Final Fantasy XV was a little bit bare bones when it first released, especially with a large portion of the story being released later as DLC. I played it and liked it, but you know, there was always the thought of what if when thinking of Final Fantasy Versus 13 and the grandiose plans that Square had for it, and unfortunately fizzled out. Series producer Tetsuya Nomura would go on to say that the ever-growing scale of the game versus the limitations of the PS3 was one main reason for the shift from the Versus 13 universe to a mainline entry. But man, what if? Now here's one I bet you didn't know. Star Fox was originally planned to have a release for the Virtual Boy. Now, if you don't know much about the Virtual Boy, just imagine a stationary headset released by Nintendo. It only displays red and kind of hurts your eyes after a few minutes. Not ideal, right? Well, this is probably one of the reasons why it never saw the light of day. And the Virtual Boy was kind of a disaster commercially. Not only that, at the same time this game was being developed, Star Fox 2 was also in development for the Super Nintendo. So it may not have seemed like a good idea to continue development on this game. I will say, there is next to no footage of this game aside from a quick snippet floating around online from one trade show back in 1995. Massive thank you to Planet Virtual Boy for sharing this video with everybody. We're lucky to even be aware of its existence, otherwise it might just be a rumor that was lost to time. In 2017, some supposed leaked assets hit the web, and of course I doubt the validity of those, with some box art and some other screenshots and ship renderings and stuff like that. It's cool to entertain the idea, and even if it's not real, it's still fun to think about the what if of this game that, of course, I didn't even really know about until recently. Pretty cool. And last up, we have the most recent of the bunch, Scalebound. Scalebound was a project in development by Platinum and shown off in 2014 and unfortunately canceled in 2017. At that time, in the mid-2010s, the Xbox One was in desperate need of a killer exclusive, and still kind of is in my opinion, and this game would have been perfect. There's nothing like a really solid open-world action game, and Platinum was a developer perfectly suited to tackle a game like this. Well, you would think. But in May of 2019, Platinum head producer Atsushi Inaba said that they didn't do all the things they needed to do as a developer. The concept of Scalebound was a third-person action game that took place in the world of Draconis, where you play as Drew and his companion dragon. The original reveals trailer and subsequent gameplay trailers garnered a lot of attention, and the world shown looked very Xenoblade-esque. There was some talk of the development team wanting to return to the game in 2020 if Microsoft would allow for it, as the IP belongs to Microsoft, but nothing has happened since. So unfortunately, at the time of recording here in 2023, Scalebound as an entire game does not live on. However, thanks to Bayonetta 3, some elements from Scalebound were recycled and put to use in the game, so at least Scalebound lives on in some really weird way. So there you go, 5 games that just never saw the light of day for one reason or another. I know out of all of them, I was really excited for 90s Arcade Racer. Like I said, I've been following that for 10 years now. I'm almost 30, which means I've been following that game for my entire 20s, and still the game is not out. I don't know. Maybe it will hit the shelves one day. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure you leave a thumbs up and a subscribe and share with your friends if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment down below and let me know what game you found most interesting from today. And not only that, are there any games that you were really hyped about that just never came out for whatever reason? Anyway, we'll see you again in the next video guys. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.